Not all cats in ancient Egypt lived the same life. Some fought to survive in brutal streets. Others were worshipped inside temples. So today, we're ranking the lives of ancient Egyptian cats. Rank F, Port Stray Cat. Every morning, this cat woke up near the crowded ports of the Nile. Before sunrise, the stone streets already felt warm beneath its paws. The air smelled like fish, river water, smoke, mud, and sweat, while merchants slowly prepared their stalls for the day, and before anything else, the cat needed water. Not food, water. Because under the Egyptian heat, dehydration could kill faster than hunger itself. So most mornings began the same way. Search the docks, stay near the shade, avoid the dogs, survive another day. This cat belonged to nobody. It wandered constantly between fishing boats, crowded alleys, food markets, and piles of cargo arriving from the Nile. The ports were loud from sunrise until late evening. Sailors shouted across the docks while fishermen carried baskets filled with fresh fish dripping river water onto the stone streets. And somewhere beneath all that movement, this cat searched for scraps. Sometimes a fisherman dropped pieces of fish by accident. Sometimes merchants threw spoiled food into the streets after sunset. And sometimes there was nothing at all. The cat spent most of its life alert, its ears constantly listening, its body constantly tense, its eyes constantly scanning the ground for danger, because ancient Egypt was beautiful but brutal for small animals. Wild dogs fought aggressively over scraps near the markets. Large birds circled above the riverbanks searching for weak prey. Venomous snakes hid between storage jars and dark corners near the docks, and close to the Nile itself, crocodiles represented danger to almost everything alive, especially young animals. At night, the cat usually returned to the same sleeping places, beneath wooden carts, between piles of fishing nets, or beside warm stone walls that still held heat long after sunset. The streets slowly became quieter after dark, but danger never fully disappeared. Some nights, other stray cats fought over territory. Other nights, dogs searched the streets for food, and during the hottest seasons, even sleeping became difficult. The air stayed warm long after midnight while insects filled the darkness around the river. Still, life near the ports carried small advantages. The Nile brought endless human activity: fish, grain, trade, food, and wherever humans gathered in large numbers, rats followed. Without realizing it, this cat helped control them, which meant people usually tolerated its presence, not because they loved it, but because it was useful. And in ancient Egypt, being useful already meant survival. Still, this life remained exhausting. Every day depended on luck. One injury, one infection, 1 week without food or water, and survival could end very quickly beneath the Egyptian sun. Its life was harsh, but away from the burning ports and crowded streets, another kind of cat lived a far more stable life beside the farms of the Nile. Rank D, Farm Cat. This cat lived beside the Nile fields. Far from the noise of the ports, the countryside moved at a slower rhythm. The mornings smelled like wet earth, grain, plants, river water, and mud, while warm winds crossed endless fields beneath the rising sun. And somewhere between the farms, grain storage buildings, and irrigation canals, this cat spent most of its life hunting. In ancient Egypt, grain meant survival. Entire villages depended on successful harvests. The grain-fed workers supported trade and kept communities alive during difficult seasons. But wherever grain existed, rats followed, thousands of them. And unlike the stray cat near the ports, this cat had something important: a purpose. Every night, it patrolled storage buildings searching for movement between baskets, jars, and dark corners. It moved silently through barns, while farmers and workers slept nearby beneath the warm desert air. The cat understood this territory completely: the smell of grain, the sounds of insects at night, the movement of rats beneath wooden floors, the dangerous places where snakes like to hide. And unlike Rank F, this cat usually had a place to return to: a shaded barn, a grain house, a quiet corner near the fields. During the hottest parts of the day, it rested in the shade while farmers worked beneath the brutal Egyptian sun. The heat across the open fields became exhausting during summer. Even the animals moved more slowly once the afternoon arrived. But life near the Nile remained dangerous. Venomous snakes hid near irrigation canals and crops. Parasites spread easily between animals. Flooding seasons sometimes destroyed entire farming areas overnight, and during poor harvests, food became limited for everyone. Humans always ate first. Still, compared to the stray cats near the ports, this animal lived a far more stable life. Some farming families intentionally left scraps behind after meals. Others simply allowed the cat to stay because they understood how valuable it was. And over time, the cat became familiar. Children recognized it. Workers expected to see it near the grain stores. Farmers noticed when it disappeared for too long. For the first time in this ranking, the cat experienced routine. The same fields, the same barns, the same people, the same sounds every night beside the Nile. Its life was still difficult, but no longer completely uncertain. And in the ancient world, stability was already a privilege. Still, inside Egypt's growing cities, another kind of cat lived even closer to humans than this. Rank C, market cat. This cat lived in the loudest parts of ancient Egypt, the markets. From sunrise until late evening, the streets stayed crowded with merchants, fishermen, workers, animals, baskets of grain, hanging fabrics, pottery, smoke, and noise coming from every direction at once. Compared to the calm countryside, life here never truly stopped. Every morning, the cat returned to the same streets near the fish sellers and food stalls. Even before sunrise, merchants were already unloading boats arriving from the Nile, while workers carried heavy baskets across the stone roads. The smell of fresh fish, bread, spices, sweat, and river water filled the air constantly. And for this cat, that was a good thing, because unlike the lower ranks, food was usually nearby. Tiny scraps of fish fell from crowded tables. Broken grain spilled across the streets, and after sunset the markets often became filled with leftovers abandoned by merchants before returning home. So, for the first time in this ranking, the cat no longer spent every moment searching for survival. Instead, it learned routines. It knew which merchant dropped scraps most often, which kitchens stayed warm after dark, which alleyways became dangerous once the streets emptied at night. Over time, the market itself became familiar, almost like home. Some merchants even recognized the cat after seeing it every single day beside their stalls. A few eventually stopped chasing it away completely, and unlike the farm cats isolated near the Nile fields, this cat constantly lived beside humans. Children pointed at it while following their parents through crowded streets. Workers stepped around it naturally. Fishermen sometimes tossed unwanted scraps directly onto the ground while preparing their stalls in the morning. For the first time in this ranking, life actually contained moments of comfort, not luxury, but comfort. At night, the cat usually slept beneath wooden market tables or beside warm kitchens where the stone floors still held heat after sunset. And once the crowds finally disappeared, the market became strangely peaceful. The noise faded, lanterns flickered softly beside empty streets, and somewhere in the darkness, the cat quietly hunted rats between baskets and storage rooms while the rest of the city slept. But life here still carried problems completely different from the lower ranks. The streets remained crowded almost constantly. Animals fought aggressively over territory, and the noise never truly disappeared. Some days the heat trapped itself between the stone buildings until the air itself felt heavy. Other days, the markets became chaotic when boats arrived from the Nile all at once, filling the streets with shouting workers, moving cargo, and frightened animals running between the crowds. Life here could feel overwhelming, busy, unpredictable, but compared to the exhausting survival of the ports or the endless labour of the farms, this cat lived a surprisingly comfortable life. Its world felt alive, familiar, human, and deeper inside Egyptian society, some cats experienced even greater comfort than this. Rank B, noble house cat. This cat lived inside the homes of wealthy Egyptians, and compared to the crowded markets outside, its life felt almost silent. The streets of ancient Egypt remained loud, dusty, and brutally hot beneath the desert sun. But inside these homes, thick walls blocked much of the heat, while shaded rooms stayed cool during the hottest hours of the day. For the first time in this ranking, the cat spent most of its life completely protected from the outside world. Most mornings began slowly. Sunlight entered quietly through open windows while servants moved through the house, carrying water, oils, food, fabrics, and pottery between rooms. And somewhere between the shaded hallways and decorated chambers, the cat wandered peacefully through its territory. Unlike the lower ranks, this animal rarely worried about survival anymore. Fresh water appeared every day. Food arrived consistently, and dangerous animals almost never entered wealthy homes. Some afternoons, the cat rested beside open courtyards while warm wind crossed through the house from the Nile. Other days, it slept peacefully on woven fabrics while incense slowly burned nearby. The air smelled like flowers, linen, oils, and cooked fish. Outside, Egypt remained exhausting. Workers struggled beneath the heat. Markets stayed noisy. Animals fought for scraps in the streets. But inside these homes, life moved differently, quietly, comfortably. And over time, the relationship between the cat and humans changed completely. This was no longer simply a useful hunter. The family genuinely enjoyed its presence. Some wealthy Egyptians became deeply attached to their cats. They protected them carefully, fed them directly, and sometimes decorated them with jewelry or beautiful collars. For the first time in this ranking, the cat experienced affection simply for existing. Children rested beside it during the hottest parts of the day. Families allowed it to sleep nearby at night. Servants sometimes carried food directly to the places where the cat liked to rest. Its life felt calm, safe, almost luxurious. But this comfort also created a very different kind of life. Compared to the lower ranks, this cat spent far less time exploring the outside world. Most days passed inside the same quiet rooms, the same shaded courtyards, the same peaceful halls. Its world became smaller, but far more comfortable. And honestly, for an animal living thousands of years ago, that trade was probably worth it. Still, even wealthy homes could not compare to the final rank, because in ancient Egypt, some cats stopped being treated like ordinary animals entirely. Rank S, Temple Cat. This cat lived inside the temples of Bastet, and compared to every other rank, its life almost felt unreal. Outside the temple walls, ancient Egypt remained loud, crowded, dusty, and exhausting beneath the desert sun. Markets overflowed with noise while workers carried grain beneath unbearable heat near the Nile. But inside the temple, everything changed. The air felt cooler. The massive stone walls protected the interior from the worst of the heat, while candles and incense filled the halls with soft smoke and warm light. Even the sounds felt different here. Quiet footsteps echoed through the corridors. Distant prayers moved softly through the temple chambers, and somewhere between the statues, columns, offerings, and sacred rooms, this cat wandered freely. Unlike the lower ranks, this animal lived almost completely without fear. Food arrived every single day. Fresh fish, clean water, warm places to sleep, and for the first time in this ranking, the cat no longer needed to prove its usefulness constantly to survive. The temple itself protected it. Most days passed peacefully. Sometimes the cat rested beside sacred statues while priests walked through the halls carrying oils, flowers, and offerings for Bastet. Other times it wandered slowly through quiet temple chambers, illuminated only by candlelight and sunlight entering from above. At night, the atmosphere became even stranger. The temple grew almost completely silent while incense smoke drifted slowly through the darkness. And somewhere beneath painted ceilings and enormous stone pillars, the cat slept peacefully beside the warmth of the temple walls. Compared to the chaos of the outside world, life here felt calm, almost disconnected from reality itself. But what truly separated this rank from every other one was the way humans viewed the animal. To many Egyptians, cats connected to Bastet were not ordinary creatures. They represented protection, balance, spiritual power. Visitors respected them deeply. Priests protected them carefully, and harming one could lead to severe punishment. Some temple cats even became mummified after death. That alone shows how extraordinary their status truly was. Compared to rank F, the contrast almost feels impossible. The stray cat wandered endlessly through burning streets searching for scraps beside the Nile. This cat rested peacefully beneath sacred temple ceilings. The farm cat hunted snakes through exhausting fields beneath the sun. This cat slept safely behind enormous stone walls protected from the heat outside. The market cat survived noise, crowds, and constant movement. This cat lived surrounded by silence, rituals, candles, and prayers. For a cat living thousands of years ago, this was probably the closest thing possible to paradise. And honestly, that says far more about ancient Egypt than it does about the cats themselves. Because very few civilizations in human history ever treated animals the way the Egyptians did. To them, cats were not dirty creatures, not simple hunters, not disposable animals surviving beside humans. They were protectors, companions, and sometimes something close to divine.